Saints, beware of stonewalling of society, or better said, stonewalling by society. Society loves to stonewall you anytime you ask legitimate questions. That is why a lot of people don't ask legitimate questions, because when they ask legitimate questions, they were either victimized as a form of quote-unquote punishment for being rude or whatever, or they were stonewalled. Now, if you did something, whether it was good or bad, doesn't matter, and you got the reaction from it, and the reaction from other people was a bad reaction, at least you are recognized as a human being. Stonewalling is a type of torture in which people don't even recognize your worth as a human being. Listen, they treat doo-doo much better than they treat people they stonewall. Doo-doo is actually stinking and very unhygienic, so people cannot afford to ignore it. But here's the thing, a human being who doesn't pose a threat, they treat worse than doo-doo. When you stonewall someone, you're actually saying your existence does not matter. I do whatever I want, the way I want, and you just find a way to deal with what I want, on my terms. That's what stonewalling is. Stonewalling is a narcissistic torture method used to feel superior to the other individual. And that's something that a lot of people do, especially when it comes to sexual relationships. Women tend to do it when they want to feel in control of the man. There are men doing it when they want to get away with laziness or whatever. And not only in sexual relationships, also in families it happens. You have parents who act out of line, and when the children ask for an explanation, they just ignore it. You have children doing it to parents when they don't want to face any responsibility for anything. This also happens in the workplace. This happens everywhere. Stonewalling. And here's the thing, stonewalling is only done to people who are weaker than the one doing the stonewalling. Because if you stonewall someone who's able to retaliate against you, you're in trouble. So when narcissists or people with narcissistic tendencies cannot stonewall someone because they have a leverage over them, they tend to make backhanded compliments, or they try to say some nonsense the individual wants to hear just so that they don't have to deal with something. That's an indirect form of stonewalling. When someone just tells you what you want to hear just to make you shut up, that means they don't want to participate in your concern. Now, don't get things wrong. If someone is toxic because they keep bringing up issues that don't matter just to get attention, and it's something that world women intend to do, then of course there are going to be times people just tell you you're right and give some sympathy to make you shut up. In that case, it's your fault they treat you that way. You know why? Because if you keep on bringing issues for which you don't want solutions, but just want to murmur and complain to get attention, then you can expect people to get fed up with you. You shouldn't expect anyone to put up with that behavior. But if that's not the case, and you raise a legitimate concern, then people should acknowledge it as a legitimate concern, and they should be constructive to look for an answer and a solution with you. When you raise legitimate concerns and people just pretend as if you nor those concerns exist, they're stonewalling you. And I want you to recognize when you're being stonewalled. There's a difference between people being in denial and people stonewalling you. When people are in denial, they at least admit that something is off, but they will either say, well, it's not really that bad, or they'll try to minimize it, but at least they admit something is there. At least they answer you. When people stonewall you, they don't even want to answer you. And if they have to answer you, they'll either pretend like you're bothering them or like you're stalking or harassing them, which is not the case. You just raise a legitimate concern that should be raised. Or they will flat out walk away from you as if you don't even exist. Well, the third option for them is to just say what you want to hear just to make you shut up. I'm telling you, beware of stonewalling. When people begin to stonewall you, that's a sign that you're in dangerous company. Look, if someone is not trustworthy, and if someone has proven not to be trustworthy, and if someone has bad intentions, or if someone is not interested in solutions and they contact you, then it may be best not even to answer them. If you get a phone call and you get a very uncomfortable feeling just because that phone rings, and then you see what it is, it's better not to pick up the phone. That's not stonewalling. There are times you legitimately walk away from people and ignore people. For example, if you are in town and you have this pimp at the corner of the street hissing at you, and a cat calling you, as a woman, you should walk away and not answer. Or if you're walking down the street and you have this guy looking angry at you, beginning to shout at you, trying to look for a fight, you should ignore him and continue. When you ignore him and continue, psychologically you've shut him down. If he comes after you, it will be very hard for him to escalate on you. So there are times you have to, quote unquote, ignore or dismiss people. But that's only if there is a legitimate, objective danger that you need to avoid. When there is no objective danger, then there is no legitimate reason to just ignore someone and pretend like someone does not exist. You should address legitimate concerns. When people don't want to address legitimate concerns because they've made up their minds already or they just want to be left alone, those type of people are narcissistic. Sometimes they're full-blown narcissists, but whether they're actual narcissists or just narcissistic, in both cases you are in danger. Because people that are stonewalling, they're not operating in reality. Now, reality is the only thing there is. So reality is there whether you want it or not. But someone that stonewalls, they persist in a delusion. They persist in magical thinking. And they think that by just ignoring something they can't stand, it automatically will go away. Or they think that by just not addressing something, eventually they don't need to address it anymore. That's not how reality works. That's not how life works. If we have a gang in a neighborhood that's causing trouble, unless something is done to either break up the gang or to reform the gang members, that gang is going to escalate into a mafia, and then it's going to escalate into a conglomeration of crime, and you're going to have generations of problems in the community later on. So, if there's a gang that's maliciously haunting people in the neighborhood, everyone should admit it, and everyone should decide, okay, something needs to be done about it. What can we do as individuals together to solve this? If people know there's a gang around, but nobody wants to talk about it, everyone just pretends it's not there, then they are stonewalling. They are allowing the situation to become worse and worse just because they don't want to be bothered. Or if there is domestic violence happening within a couple, and let's say the couple has children, now the community needs to intervene. When the community does not intervene on behalf of the children who don't have any options, they are on purpose contributing to child abuse and they're contributing to domestic violence. So they are in on the violence. So when those children grow up with mental issues, the community causes those issues. But if the community admits this, then they also need to take charge of the medical bills or whatever that comes as part of taking responsibility. People don't want all of that, so people will remain in denial. When people are stonewalling you, that they're saying to you that your existence does not matter unless they say so. So, because they want to play God by deciding whether or not your existence matters, that means that they are making plain that their existence matters no matter what. So when they want something, it matters whether you want it or not. But when you want something, it's just an option. So you are an option, they are a necessity, because it's all about them and their ease and relief. Such people will enable harm on you. They will allow bad stuff to happen to you just because they don't want to be bothered. I'm telling you, beware with stonewalling. When people begin to stonewall you, realize that it's time for you to pack your bags and look for another place to go. So whether you actually move out or not, that's between you and the Holy Spirit. Let the Holy Spirit guide you in this. So that's why you need to pray and fast. But realize when stonewalling begins, realize that danger is there. When there's danger, you need to get out of there. Don't ignore stonewalling. Stonewalling is a very, very big red flag that tragedy or something very bad is about to happen. Because people that stonewall will let bad things happen to the community and even to themselves. Because people that stonewall, they don't even consider their own safety. Sometimes they don't even care about their own safety nor their own well-being. They just want the pride of being in charge. So they want to be in charge of everything they can be in charge of, and they don't want anyone to tell them anything. Such people are delusional, they're out of their mind, and they're quite dangerous, and they're untrustworthy. So do not persist in relationships where you're stonewalled. Again, look at the context, okay? If you have a mental patient and you are the psychiatrist or psychologist, then sometimes they will deny answering questions because it's too much for them. I'm not talking about that. So pray about what I've said in this video and put it in context. I'm talking about actual denial or refusal to communicate with you when you raise a legitimate concern. That's what I'm talking about. When that happens, quietly begin to pack your bags and make sure you can leave anytime you have an option. Do not stay where you're stonewalled at all. Don't stay there. Be at peace.